I am Dr. William Ellery Channing, the Unitarian theologian, not William Ellery Channing, the transcendentalist poet. He was my nephew. While I was a major influence upon him and the other New England transcendentalists like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, I did not ever countenance their views. I thought that they were too extreme. I was born in 1780 in Newport, Rhode Island. I was one of 9 children and tragically lost my father when I was only 13. Despite the precarious finances following my father's death, I was able to continue school and eventually enroll at Harvard. In the book about me, The Life of William Ellery Channing, I am believed to have indicated an early interest in the ministry. I am believed to have said, in my senior year, the prevalence of infidelity imported from France led me to inquire into the evidences of Christianity, and then I found for what I was made. My heart embraced its great objects with an interest which has been increasing to this hour. From Harvard, where I graduated as an 18-year-old in 1798, I went to Richmond, Virginia, to work as a tutor in a family. I remember the 2 years spent there as both painful for the spiritual struggle I underwent and the physical deprivation I subjected myself to, and beneficial for the questions it gave me time to settle. I returned to New England, specifically to Boston, where in 1803, at 23 years old, I assumed the pastorate of the Federal Street Church. I remained pastor there for the remainder of my life. I lived through the increasing tension between religious liberals and conservatives, and I took a moderate position, rejecting the extremes of both groups. Nevertheless, I became the primary spokesman and interpreter of Unitarianism when I preached the ordination sermon for Jared Sparks in Baltimore in 1819. The sermon was entitled Unitarian Christianity. In that address, I explicated the distinctive tenets of the Unitarian movement, only one of which was the rejection of the Trinity. Other important tenets were the belief in human goodness and the subjection of theological ideas to the light of reason. In 1828, I gave another famous ordination sermon entitled Likeness to God. The idea of the human potential to be like God, which I advocated as grounded firmly in Scripture, was seen as heretical by the Calvinist religious establishment of my day. It is in this address which I first advocated the possibility for revelation through reason rather than solely from Scripture. In later years, I addressed the topic of slavery, although I was never an ardent abolitionist. I did not join the abolitionist movement because I did not agree with their way of conducting themselves, and I felt that voluntary associations limited a person's autonomy. Therefore, I often chose to remain separate from organisations and reform movements. I've been criticised both in my time and later for this stance. This middle position characterised my attitude about most questions, although my eloquence and strong influence on the religious world incurred the enmity of many extremists. I had an enormous influence over the religious and social life of New England and America in the 19th century. I died in Vermont in 1842, where a cenotaph is placed in my memory. In the early 19th century, I was one of Unitarian's leading theologians. I still am today. I was known for my articulate and impassioned sermons and public speeches, and as a prominent thinker in the liberal theology of the day. Today, any self-respecting Unitarian minister around the world is very familiar with my work. Thank you for listening to my story. Please carry forward the gifts of freedom, reason and tolerance, and our glorious tradition of heresy.